The biggest game of the weekend, Texas at Ohio State, Columbus, Ohio, noon on Fox. 1 versus 3.
Or 2,
David.
depending on your poll. Yes.
Well, I don't have either of them in the top 2 in my poll, so it's neither that.
The Athletic 136 is the only poll we recognize.
David, let's start off with our biggest question we have about this game. And for me, it's not Arch Manning. It is, can Ohio State run the ball? Because last year you had 2 really, really good running backs on that team that anchored everything and allowed Will Howard to have time to throw to some of those receivers and stuff like that. They don't have that this year. They've got CJ Donaldson, a veteran, James Peoples, who they seem to like, but very not guys you think necessarily at the moment are going to be playing on Sundays. And against a Texas defensive front that is very, very good, especially those D tackles that they've been doing, can Ohio State run the ball? Because if they can't, and Ohio and Texas is stopping the run with 4 down linemen, that allows Texas to then double Jeremiah Smith in the secondary, which they did for the entire Cotton Bowl. I was there. I watched that game. I saw every single play. They were shading a safety or a nickelback over to Jeremiah Smith with the corner who was on him, and he put up almost nothing in that Cotton Bowl game. They were taking Jeremiah Smith away and letting everything come up front. And Ohio State ended up running the ball pretty well at times. And I need to know if this Ohio State team can run the ball. We know Julian's saying, new quarterback, young guy, he's going to need a running game. And I want to know if Ohio State can run the ball. What is the number one thing you're looking at in this game?
Chris, did you know that winning on the road is hard in college football? You have 2 young quarterbacks here who people have a lot of. Obviously, Arch has the expectations. I think it is, not necessarily Arch specifically, but I think that even though it's a big game, there's 2 great teams. The degree of difficulty is very, very different here because I think Ohio State, Julian saying, are going to be able to operate, do what they need to do. You couldn't have a tougher test, basically, for Arch Manning. It's not his first start, but realistically, it's his first real start. It's a very big game, obviously. And I think that this will tell us a little bit about him. I think you're going to see some of those flashes. I think it is, the most interesting thing for me and the biggest question for me is, is this the launch of a Heisman campaign, or is this kind of what I've been thinking it might be for a year plus, where Arch is good, but he's a first-year starter that has a lot of unfair things thrust upon him because his name is not Arch Robinson. And that's really interesting to me. And I think the entire take ecosystem, the conversation around Arch will be really interesting. And I think he's well suited to handle that. Did you see that quote from him that he said to a friend in the ESPN.com story this week?
Basically, he's ready for something to go wrong and people think he's the worst quarterback ever.
Yeah, I think we're gonna have a lot of that's gonna happen, and I felt bad for him coming off of last season a little bit because I think it's just gonna be tremendously unfair. But I think if you play well in this game, it only inflates the balloon larger, the lure larger, and I think if he goes out there and is 14 of 27 with a touchdown and 2 picks, and they lose 28-13, I think there's gonna be a lot of people selling their Arch stock, and it's like, hey. It's really hard to go in and play a top 5 team on the road in a huge opening game. So the Arch thing is interesting to me, and I think the conversation around it and how it will be processed and how he plays is going to be really interesting because we just haven't had it's a little bit like the Shador NFL conversation and Tebow to some degree, where the casual fans are locked in on this, and I think it adds the first year of Dion at Colorado, where there's just a lot of conversation and a lot of stuff going around of people that maybe aren't paying attention. I think that's interesting. Maybe that's just me.
People are going to get annoyed by all the Arch talk, all the Arch stories. I get it. But I'll tell you, Bruce Feldman, our colleague, had said he wrote a story about Arch Manning's parents this summer. It's the most read story he's ever done on The Athletic. We see the numbers. People read about Arch Manning a lot. It's why we at The Athletic write about a lot, because people care. I'm weirdly not concerned about Arch in this game. It's not like he hasn't been in environments before. He took snaps in the Cotton Bowl semifinal against Ohio State. He took snaps.
It's different, though, Chris. Taking snaps is different than being the guy.
He took snaps at Texas A&M where we were. He took snaps against Georgia, and it didn't go very well against Georgia. And he started 2 games. It's not like CJ Carr at Notre Dame, which we'll get to, which is like real freshman, never been in there before vibes. Arch is in his 3rd season in this with this team, and he's had the same coaches with him. So it's like he's comfortable in what they have. I don't think the environment's going to get to him that much. My concern about Texas is the offensive line, because they had to replace 4 of those starters, and they've got the guys who are there. There's some injury concerns. So what kind of pass rush can Ohio State get? I think Arch's legs are going to be huge in this game. They may not call as many designed runs. I think he's going to get out of the pocket and make a lot of things happen with his legs, because he's going to have to, because I think the pressure could be there. I also think this Texas team should be able to run the ball. They've got some good running backs.
Yeah, Trey Weiser not good. I will say too, not a lot of conversation about Ryan Wingo. I think we're gonna have a major year 2 bump for Ryan Wingo, where like he's not that far from Jeremiah Smith and Ryan Williams. Like, Ryan Williams,
well,
we get it. We get into him a little bit later. Perhaps a highlight merchant who made an entire reputation off of 1 game and 1 play within that game, but we won't get to that. Anyway, it was a good play. But like Ryan Wingo, people were not really talking about him that much last year for some reason. And I mean, he looked pretty.
Well, they had some other receivers there. But
I know, but I'm just saying he was special from the start.
Like, you don't have Golden, you don't have Helm, the tight end there anymore either. So there are some new faces that Arch is going to be throwing to. But I like the running game. I like his ability to use his legs. Let's make a pick. Ohio State is a 2.5-point favorite. David, what are you going with?
My head says Texas on paper, but I'm going with my heart, and I'm going with the first week's always hard, and going on the road is really hard. The last game that I covered was at the Horseshoe. Weird environment. Not even the Horseshoe like ramped up. This is gonna be pretty ramped up. I'm gonna take Ohio State to hold serve at home.
Do you think they cover the 2.5 they're giving up?
Yes, I think they will.
I'm gonna go Texas. I think they win this game. I think there's more continuity there. Ohio State is breaking in a new offensive coordinator in Brian Hartline, a new defensive coordinator in Matt Patricia, and tons of new starters across the board. That's a lot of change for 1 week, going up against a more veteran team, a consistent coaching staff, and a quarterback who I don't think is going to be bothered by the lights as well. So I'm going to go Texas. I think back to that 2005, 2006 Texas-Ohio State series, both of them won the road game en route to playing for the national championship that year. I think Texas gets it done.